All right, Shalom. Giving all honor, all praise, and all glory unto Yahweh, Bashem, Yahushai, Bashem, Rachak, Wadash. Don't want to say the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations to those four elect tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. I'm not going to make this long, but I just, got to do a quick response to this. I mean, you can only think, what's next? What's going to be the next thing to come from out of this group? So Sicarii yet again had another back and forth, with some Christians. And James, the second chapter and the 10th verse came up. And what you're going to hear in the lesson, the original video was done by, I believe the brother's name is Abar. Can't really see it, but basically his channel is Only the Elect. And he so far I've been seeing, he's been paying attention and catching, some of these instances where these dudes are going off, and then doing good response lessons. And then the brother Quadar, he did a follow-up response. So I'm just responding, to the clip. The scriptures tell you, for evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. And really, at the end of the day, when you have the leadership, that's self-willed, that's puffed up, you can only imagine, how the Lord is pretty much, taking away the spirit, the overall spirit, and the understanding. We know it says in Proverbs, when you eat too much honey, you can end up vomiting it up. And we've been watching this dude. He's been, switching up, from Paul. His writings isn't authoritative. Luke, he wasn't around, so he's not as valid. He doesn't have authority either. They said things about Mark, the book of Hebrews, and now James all of a sudden, right? So now James didn't understand what he said in his own epistle to the scattered Israelites. And as it is written, if a ruler hearken to lies, all his servants are wicked. And until they realize it, they're being deceived under this current leadership over there at the Sicarii. All right. And that's pretty much who I hold accountable. Like even dealing with IUIC, a lot of them dudes out there, they're just zombies following the main guy. So when you see them preaching lies and using the word deceitfully, they learned it from their head, the leader. So the pushback is always going to go to the leadership. That's who we, normally get on. All right. Because there is some sincere brothers, that are in these different Israelite camps. All right. So anyway, I'm going to try to be brief, and I'm going to play some of this video so y'all can hear it. And then we'll get understanding.
World, right? So I don't want that to be misunderstood either. But like, I just want to throw that in there, kind of like a misconception. That's why I want to ask these questions. That's what I thought. Because there's, yes, sir. Do you understand what you're saying? And then so you would have to follow the whole 613 Mosaic laws in order to be saved. So what happens when you miss one? Are you not guilty of it all? Well, I'll answer this. I'll answer that like this. If I steal $20 from you, that doesn't make me a homosexual. You see what I'm saying? So that exactly. So that doesn't now. Did I break the entire law? No, I did not. The way that James was applying that was like this: if you're willing to sin in one aspect, you're going to be willing to do it in another. right? But just because you may break one law doesn't mean you have now literally broken every single law in the Torah. You're guilty of law in the sense you break one, you're not guilty of sin in general. Well, I'll answer that again with the same analogy. If I rob you, right, according to the Torah, what's the judgment for that? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not to be stoned. If I rob an Israelite, right? I have to replace what I stole with the fifth part. I don't die. If someone is a homosexual, that's worthy of death. And even more specific, right? If a brother sleeps with his sister-in-law, they're to be put to death, but it's actually they're supposed to be burned alive. So yeah, they're gonna die, but it's a different type of way. And then even being stoned, there's certain judgments of being stoned. Being put to death is not always by stoning in the Torah. So that's why the understanding or common misconception that Christians may have of when James says, oh, if you offended one part, then you've broken the whole thing. When we analyze it very simply, that understanding and logic makes no sense because you can't judge me for parts I didn't break, right? Let's say that I own my own field, right? Going to the agricultural laws. I'm not going to sow mixed seed either, but I don't own my own field. Do I have to worry about that law? Absolutely not. Do I own my own cattle? No. So I don't have to worry about the law of the mixing. No, I don't. Exactly. If I did own my own farm, then I would have to worry about that portion of the law. You see what I'm saying? And then even when you deal with like Jubilee and stuff like that, it was based upon when we entered the land. According to how we see it, we're not in the land. So that law, again, wouldn't apply to us right now. You see what I'm saying?
Shalom.
So he gave all these different explanations and examples. And really, when you just analyze what he's saying, he's basically creating a justification for why they're not keeping the law, even though their leader teaches that they keep the law. They literally say that they don't sin, so they're perfect in the law. But one of their speakers is saying, well, because we're not sovereign, we can't keep all the law. So which one is it? Are you keeping the law or are you not keeping the law? And this is what we're saying. Now, you're misconstruing that passage in the book of James. See, it seemed like as if the same stumbling that they're having with the writings of Paul, now they're stumbling at James. See, and the more this progresses, the more that they find, criticism with certain passages in the scriptures, the more it's like they're vomiting because they're eating too much honey, and which, we know their leader do it for self-glory. Let me get that in Proverbs real quick. Let's go to Proverbs, was it 25 and 27? And it says, it is not good to eat much honey, so for men to search their own glory is not glory. Paul said it best, knowledge puffeth up. All right. And let's not being a novice, you being lifted up with pride, you fall into the condemnation of the devil. All right. So now all of a sudden, James didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But we know clearly what James was saying. All right. It's no different than when the Lord said, hang all the law upon these two principles. All right, if you love the Most High with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Upon these two things hang all the law. Does that mean that you keeping all 613 laws? But the Lord was telling you the mindset behind, walking in the Spirit and thus fulfilling the law. They was trying to walk in their own righteousness, creating their own standard of righteousness, which it tells you in Romans, the 10th chapter. Matter of fact, let me get that. Let me read it in the NLT. This is what you had them the chief priests, the hypocritical, wicked, unbelieving Pharisees and the Sadducees. This is what they were doing. Romans 10, and I'll start at 1. It says, "Dear brothers and sisters," in the New Living Translation, "the longing of my heart and my prayer to the Most High is for the people of Israel to be saved. I know what enthusiasm they have for the Most High," meaning they have zeal, right? Hey, the Sicarii, they were zealous, they were zealots, but they didn't have the right mindset. They were carnal. You know, they was really thinking of a carnal revolution would bring in the kingdom when that wasn't necessarily so. All right. We know that Rome had to fulfill the fourth beast being in power. And that's what they didn't understand. So they was basically resisting the ordinance of the Most High, because he the one that, you know, put the Romans in power. So they had that zeal, right? But it is misdirected zeal. For they don't understand the Most High's way of making people right with themselves. Refusing to accept the Most High's way, they cling to their own way of getting right with the Most High by trying to keep the law. All right. And not realizing all you're doing is you're taking away from the grace that was given you by the sacrifice that our Lord made on that cross. All right. Because if you was able to keep the law perfectly, you wouldn't have needed Yahweh's sacrifice. For the anointed, Hamashiach has already accomplished the purpose for which the law was given. As a result, all who believe in him are made right with the Most High. And that's based on faith. All right. So when we go to James, the 2nd chapter, yeah, we'll start at verse I'll start at verse 5. Now the matter is about, you know, showing favoritism, you know, being prejudiced when it comes to judging or being judgmental, you know, towards someone. You know, this was an issue. All right. So let's start from verse 5 and then we'll read down to the point. James 2 and 5, it says, "Listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Hasn't the Most High chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? Aren't they the ones who slander Yahweh Shai Mashiach, whose noble name you bear? Yes, indeed, it is good when you obey the royal law as found in the scriptures. Love your neighbor as yourself. But if you favor some people over others, you are committing a sin." Meaning what? You're breaking the commandment, right? You're showing favoritism. You're not showing the same love, you know, for one brother as you doing towards another brother. Then you're being very prejudiced, right? It says you are guilty of breaking the law. For the person who keeps all of the laws except one is as guilty as a person who has broken all the Most High's laws. For the same God who said you must not commit adultery also said you must not murder. So if you murder someone but do not commit adultery, you have broken the law. So basically, it doesn't matter, like, if you break one law. Well, if I commit theft, that don't mean that I'm committing adultery. I'm not guilty of committing adultery. Well, that's not what James was saying. James is saying basically, if you commit one of these iniquities, transgressions, you still broke the law. And when we were under the first covenant, the first agreement, the law literally said, "Cursed be he that doeth not everything that is basically written in the law to do them." So you have to basically keep the whole law to a T. In order for it to be good, All right, in the eyes of the Most High, you had to keep the whole law. You couldn't offend nowhere. All right, you couldn't wear strange garments. You couldn't burn strange incense. All right, whatever the case may have been, you couldn't do it. So if you broke the law under the first covenant, you basically broke that agreement. So this is what he's basically saying here. All right, yeah, you might not be breaking this particular law or that law, but if you broke this law over here, you just broke the law. Because under the agreement, the first agreement, you have to keep all of it. Now let's substantiate that, and let's go to Deuteronomy. Was it the 27th chapter? We're gonna go all the way down. Deuteronomy 27 and 26. It says, "Cursed is anyone who does not affirm and obey the terms of these instructions." And all the people will reply, "Amen." All right. So you have to affirm, basically, you have to know it all, agree to it, and obey it. You got to basically walk in it. Don't break none of these, not one, or you're cursed. This is the reason why we needed a new covenant. This is why we needed a new priesthood. Alazar, his issue is because he's a Levite, he wants to preserve the legacy of the old Levitical priesthood, which is why he deals with the law so heavy, and he has an issue with Paul, and I guess apparently James now. Okay, but Yahushua is the reason why we have grace now. All right, where if you do break a law, you could be forgiven. Okay. Even Yahushua said, all manner of sin can be forgiven except for blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. But under the old covenant, at the mouth of two or more witnesses, everything was established. Judgment had to be brought forth. So you didn't receive mercy under the first covenant. So let's go to Galatians 3 and 10. Let me get it in the Amplified. And this is what it says. Galatians 3 and 10, it says, "For all who depend on the law, seeking justification and salvation by obedience to the law and the observance of rituals, are under a curse. For it is written, cursed, condemned to destruction, is everyone who does not abide by all things written in the book of the law, so as to practice them." You got to practice the whole law. You can't have not one misstep or you broke the law. All right. So James wasn't wrong in what he said. That's just you dudes trying to justify yourself, trying to make yourself perfect. All right. And that's why Paul even said, matter of fact, let me read this next verse. And then I'm going to go to Timothy. This Galatians 3 and 11. It says, "Now it is clear that no one is justified, that is declared free of the guilt of sin and its penalty, and placed in right standing before God by the law. For the righteous, the just, the upright shall live by faith." And that's quoted from Prophet Joel. So that's prophecy backing up, all right, this passage. A lot of people think Paul was against the law and the prophets. He referred back to the law and the prophets, man. He didn't contradict anything. You just misunderstood him, which that's why Peter wrote that warning in his epistle. There's some things that are hard to be understood, that they that are unstable wrestle with the with his writings as they do the other scriptures until they own destruction. And this is what we're seeing with the Sicarii, because the spirit is seeping out of them, you know, especially their leader. He's waxing worse and worse. and he's getting more and more proud because in his mind he's getting more and more popular. He's getting more and more accolades. But that's a carnal, self-willed individual, and his whole movement is carnal and self-willed. So that's why his understanding is tanking. I don't care how many debates he do, how much word salad he uses. All right, how eloquent he sounds when he speak. He's starting to diminish in his understanding, and it's showing. And based on what we're seeing with his servants out there, those dudes up under him in these camps, they're getting caught left and right every time they encounter a Christian. So you think that they would eventually humble down, primarily Alazar, but I don't see him humbling down. He justify himself, every single time, and then he'll deflect and use that grape card, after he gets called out, because we call him out on stuff like this, and he doesn't like it. He hates being reproved and rebuked. So out of spite, out of maliciousness, he had to bring up the whole grape thing to try to make it seem like we're crazy, we're evil to the crowd. So we understand what James was actually saying, and he wasn't going off. All right. You if you're gonna place yourself back under the old covenant by preserving the Levitical priesthood that Alazar he's trying to keep hold to. If you ain't keeping the law perfectly, then you're just breaking it, and you're becoming a transgressor, and you're an hypocrite. This is all part of that leaven in their doctrine. The Lord said, "Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." And spiritual, because we coming up on the Pesach in a couple weeks. Every Passover season, there's some leaven that always gets revealed. So that's pretty much my response to this, and hopefully y'all are edified. I'm gonna give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Shai. Shalom.